Hey everybody, welcome once again to the Football Fandemic. Today we have a guest host and we are going to be talking about week 3. What's coming up in week 4? Are there coaches on the hot seat? All this and more today on the Football Fandemic with Brandon Harris. Thanks for joining us.
Good to be here.
Well, everybody, we are delighted and blessed to be joined by one Brandon Harris, longtime listener, has been on the podcast before. Is that right, Brandon?
I have been on a few times before, yes.
He's been on a few times. He may have some pauses here and there. He's sitting in some crazy rainy weather with some little bit of a unsure internet. We're not sure, but he's with us, and we think we're going to hear everything he has to say. We are going to get right to some news today, some things that are going on in the NFL that we think are worthy of talking about. First, I had to ask Josh before this started. J.C. Jackson traded back to the Patriots. He was traded from the Patriots to the Chargers. I'm saying all this as though I knew it. When he actually told me this, I'm like, who's J.C. Jackson? Cornerback, evidently traded at one point, wasn't working out with the Chargers. Is that right, guys? And now he's back to the Patriots.
Yeah. So he was signed. He was one of the top free agents a couple years ago. Signed with the Chargers on like a 5-year, $80-something million, I believe. Maybe it was a massive deal for a cornerback, basically. He didn't work out. Injuries kind of caught up. He didn't fit their system. And Christian Gonzalez of the Patriots, their rookie this year, got injured for the season. He's out for the season, and now he's traded back to the Patriots. And the Chargers, I believe, still have to eat all of his salary.
Well, good for the Patriots, not good for the Chargers. But there is a team in this world today that is having some pretty good news. And that is the Indianapolis Colts. Don't know if you guys have heard, but JT spoke to the media today. Jonathan Taylor came back and said, I'm excited to be here working with the Colts. And they said, are you here long term? And he says, I'm here right now. And I'm going to work to get this team a championship. And he would never answer his long-term goals. And I'm going to tell you this. I like having Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson in the same backfield. That's going to be exciting. Watching him talk at his press conference, I don't believe that he is like settled with this whole contract thing. He said, oh, that was off season. I feel like I think he realizes, hey man, Zach Moss is playing well and they're tied for first and last in the AFC South because every team is 2-2. And he's like, we could win this. I'm going to get in there. I need to have a resume. I need to show people that I'm back to 2021. Look, I need to drum up some interest if I want to get a trade or if I want to get the Colts to give me a long-term deal. I think right now he's in a let's wait and see. I think he could be happy with the Colts if the right contract comes along. I think he could be one of those people who waits till the end of the year. And then there's that whole question of the franchise tag, which I'm just going to say it right here. As a team fan, okay, I realize players got to do what players got to do, but as a team fan, if it gets to the end of this year, I think they should franchise tag him with the one that's like where somebody else can sign him. And if they do, we get, 2 first-round picks or a first-round pick?
Or 2 firsts. Yeah.
2 first. We definitely need to do that. Then if somebody's serious, they can sign him away. We get our 2 first-round draft picks. That would be a fine trade for me. Now, at the same time, I would love to see him come in and do great. And the Colts to surprise us all in the first year. I was the first one to say I don't expect much from the Colts this year, except for excitement, joy, and the possibilities, the flashes I see that make me think there's hope for our future because we haven't had that in a few years. But now I'm actually at the place where I'm like, you know what? With the AFC South that we have right now, and I know C.J. Stroud's been looking good as a quarterback, but that whole team in general, they definitely have some pieces. They got, Will Anderson. They picked up on the other side of the ball. Good addition. They've got a good head coach now who I think's got that team believing and has given them a better defense. But I don't think they're quite there yet either. It could be a year that the Colts go to the playoffs. Will we go all the way? To be seen. Jonathan Taylor and Anthony in the backfield, maybe that changes. I'm still keeping my expectations low. Either we don't make the playoffs at all, but we see some great flashes, or we make the playoffs and we get in a game, maybe 2. We'll see. If it went all the way, I would never complain. I would never say, yep, I'm the first to admit I was wrong. Look how great things are. So that's kind of what I expect after seeing his little media session today. But as a Colts fan, I am super excited. And Brandon Colmark, who is in our fantasy league, who drafted Jonathan Taylor, is probably excited now to see his fantasy team get a little bump right when he is needing it. And you know what? I never even looked. I voted today for all of our matchups, and I never even looked to see how close it would be if he put in JT, because I don't think I put him as winning that game. Anyway, that's JT. And I don't mean to keep talking. Or do I? We're going to have Brandon talk here in a minute, and Josh. But our third bit of news for today is the question: has the NFL gone too far with this whole Taylor Swift thing? And I just want to weigh in from the beginning on a couple points. Last week, I think Josh kind of clipped a little section of me talking about how Taylor Swift, what's the big deal? Who is she? She just seems like a normal girl. I've never listened to a song of hers. And it went out on the internet, and somebody immediately commented and said, well, take a look at him. Obviously, he wouldn't be someone who knows Taylor Swift or listens to Taylor Swift. I responded back to her comment with, I agree. And I just want you to know, whoever you are, it's true. I mean, just look at this guy. This is not a guy who listens to Taylor Swift. And I want you to know, Taylor Swift is not bad. I don't hate Taylor Swift. I think whatever she does is fine. She reminds me of a young Debbie Harry. And if you're like, who the heck? Well, then you're not the kind of person who would have listened to that. And that's okay. That was, I just lost the name. Debbie Harry was with Heart of Glass. What's the name of the band? Anyway, it'll come back to me. Blondie, right. Can't believe I forgot that. But anyway, Debbie Harry with Blondie. She reminds me of Debbie Harry. And in the day, a lot of the same vibe. But nothing wrong with Taylor Swift as far as an artist. And yes, I'm not the kind of guy who would listen to her, but that doesn't mean she's not great and fabulous for Taylor Swift fans. But has the NFL gone too far with this whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce thing? What do you guys think?
Well, I can understand why they're doing it. It's a marketing perspective, and they came out and they said it. They said in their own quotes, or in a paraphrasing quote, the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce news has been a pop culture moment we've leaned into in real time, as it's an intersection of sports and entertainment. We've seen an incredible amount of positivity around the sport. The vast majority of our content has remained focused on the game, our players, and a variety of other initiatives. We frequently change our bios and profile imagery based on what's happening in and around our games, as well as culturally. So from that standpoint, I can understand. But when you're even when it's not Sunday Night Football, let us go last week, because I kind of predicted this as my manure game. Whenever you're at Sunday Night Football, the only game broadcasted, they broadcast like the number one game of the week, basically. And every time you pan to that, that moment of Taylor Swift, you're either A, gaining Taylor Swift fans in the NFL, or B, losing NFL fans turning the game off. I know a couple friends that actually turned the game off because it kept getting too frequent for them. You know what I mean? It was like I'd say every play or every drive, at least there was one or two pan shots to Taylor Swift and Brittany Mahomes, and it just got too much for some people at some point. So you got to have a median.
I'm going to say. I'm going to say they are not going to lose NFL fans. We may be disgruntled. We may be like, it's too much Taylor Swift, but we're going to tune in for good games, regardless of if Taylor Swift's there. It's that, like you said, this wasn't that exciting of a game. But they are going to gain all these little Swifties who are like, Travis Kelce. There's already been people like now saying, oh man, she shouldn't be with Travis Kelce. I saw a video clip of him in practice where he punched a guy, and if he uses his hands in anger like that, she shouldn't be with him. That's scary for her. And they're like freaking out because this football guy in a practice turns around and punches a dude with a helmet when things get heated. And they're like, oh, he's violent. This is going to be domestic abuse, and Taylor shouldn't be put in that situation. This is what we're going to have to deal with. But here's what I think, and I actually read something about this. They urged all of the networks, and they listed them: ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, ESPN. They urged them to run free promos for Taylor Swift's concert during that game, to run a couple free promos. Two of them did it. I think it was NBC and ESPN. And what's going on here, someone speculates, and I would agree, is they're trying to woo Taylor Swift to come for a halftime Super Bowl show. Because that would be a huge draw to the, all those people who come here to Campus House and watch the Super Bowl, who could care less about the teams, don't even know who the teams' names are or anybody on them, but they come because they want to watch the halftime show. There's like billions of those people in the world. And you get Taylor Swift, there's going to be all of the, last year, all I could hear was all these girls like, oh, I can't wait. Was it Rihanna? Is that who that was? Yeah. They're like, oh, I can't wait for Rihanna to come on. And I'm like, we're at a Super Bowl. Just stop. Anyway, that's the football guy. But the truth is, I'm like your friends. If I see a bad game and they're hitting all that stuff a lot, I may turn it off. But the truth is, I'm going to be back next week. I'm going to watch good games, regardless if they put Rihanna or Taylor Swift or whoever on the screen like every
It was
10
a good
seconds.
game, which we'll talk about later. But that was a good game, and where even if Taylor Swift was in it or out of it, that was worth the watch.
Who were they playing?
The Jets and the Chiefs, and it was like a.
Oh yeah, that did end up being I was
Yeah.
thinking this was like the Bears,
The Jets.
but no, this was the Jets. That did end up being a pretty good game, didn't it? So did your friends tune back in?
No.
No.
At least one of them said they didn't. I don't know about the others, but a lot
I
of them
said
were
I
in my
can't
house.
stand it. I'm out. Forget this Taylor Swift stuff. For all you Swifties out there, I'm not against Taylor Swift. Go Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce. Personally, don't think it's going to turn into anything that'll last. It may be like a little fling for a while. It'll break up. She'll write a song about it. Swifties will love the song. That'll be that. Any words, Brandon, on the Taylor Swift saga?
I think the issue, and you don't see a lot of celebrities go to NFL games outside the Super Bowl, according to other sports. And a lot of people's issues were like, hey, there's more than just Taylor Swift in there. Hugh Jackman was in that box. Ryan Reynolds
Ryan
is in
Reynolds,
that box.
yep.
Like, show them, talk about them. And I think there were other celebrities and stuff like that. Like Sophie Turner, I heard, was there. But hopefully this pushes more people, because you don't see a lot in the NFL, according to like versus basketball. It's super easy to see which celebrities are in the game, and it's very fun to go to basketball games. But in the NFL, you're up in the box, you're just hanging out. Hopefully there's more emphasis on celebrities going to, like, if you're a cameraman, go find the celebrity. That's part of the fun. Go find the celebrity, see who's there. I don't care if Taylor Swift, I don't care if Swifties come for me. I hope Travis Kelce and her end up together. That'd be awesome. What a power couple. I don't really care as long as the game's
The
good.
other Kelce brother's dating like a soccer star, right?
No,
married.
Not soccer.
Oh, that's who is that? It's not Kelce. It's
field hockey. It's field hockey.
Field hockey, but Zach Ertz is dating Julia Ertz, which just
That-
retired from the U.S.
that might
soccer
be
team.
who I'm thinking of. Yeah. Anyway, well, I'll tell you this: they do occasionally show other celebrities. I see them in crowds. Just nobody cares because they're not dating anybody on the field, and even if they are. I think this is a testament to just like the wild, crazy popularity of Taylor Swift right now. Somebody told me like how much her concerts cost, and I'm like, I saw a meme. It's like people who can afford Taylor Swift concerts and peasants. That's the rest. That's our society today. And I'm like, yeah, that makes.
I saw one
sense.
where it's cheaper to go to a Chiefs game and see Taylor Swift than go to one of her concerts, because her concerts are outrageously expensive.
There you go. Hey, Swift, you're making the money off the peoples, pushing people into peasantry. Hope you're happy. Let's move on. Let's get away from this. Let's talk about some football. Hey, at the beginning of this whole semester, this whole season, we made some predictions. We even at the time maybe questioned some of our predictions, especially those that happened early, as training camps wore on and rosters filled out and storylines happened. But we made those and we stick by them. We try to see how did we do at our predictions. Josh, fill us in on what's going on with our predictions here in week 4.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen real quick for it. So we went it's not there. 1 minute.
When he said, I'll share my screen, he meant I'll close my screen share.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
There it is. So we went a disastrous 8-8 compared to last week's 11-5. But some like Matthew said, we predicted some of these games in July and August, and none of these players were injured. So Joe Burrow, for example, not doing well.
Well, he was injured then, but we thought he'd be
he
better.
thought he'd be better. Whereas the Bengals, oh yeah, we just talked about them. I don't know, just some of these games you also picked as upsets that didn't happen, but it's how it goes. I mean, as long as we beat Adam Rank, we're cool with that. That's all that matters. So we went 8-8 on the season, and we just hope to get better next week. I guess we can't really change anything, but we hope the games go in our predictional favor and our homer team favor for the next couple weeks.
Which this last week they were diametrically opposed. We squeaked out a win with the Rams beating the Colts after they came back from 23-0 all the way up to push it to overtime. The Colts lost as a homer. I hated to see that. As this thing, yeah, there we did.
Same thing with Commanders. They pushed to overtime. They surprised everybody, which we'll get into in a minute. They went in overtime. Some questionable calls, but they squeaked out a field goal in overtime. And sucks for my homer team, but for this predictional standpoint,
the opposing team squeaked out.
Yeah.
So we started off 9-7. We then went 10-6. We got better. We then went 11-5. We got better. Then we went 8-8. But I'll tell you this: we still don't have a losing prediction week, a losing record. 8-8. We're tied. It's like those Titan teams back with what's his face mustache. Can't remember his name off. Jeff Fisher. Yeah. Always 8-8.
Yes.
No losing seasons, but no winning seasons either. All right, let's talk for just a bit today. This is kind of in our title a little bit. Are there coaches already? We are at week 4. Week 4 is early, but already we start to get a clue for what coaches might be on a hot seat, or at least their seat's starting to heat up. And if things don't change, they could be on a hot seat. Let's look through the league. Let's look through, each division and decide, are there any coaches in this division on the hot seat? And we'll kind of go around. So let's start AFC North. AFC North, you got Bears, Ravens, Browns, Steelers, and Browns, Ravens, Steelers, Bengals.
I think they're all safe.
That's
Bengals.
AFC.
Yeah.
That's AFC North. Yes.
I think they're safe.
I agree. I think everybody there's safe. Even though
I'd
the
say
Bengals have
safe.
started off slow, they're not going to get rid of. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. AFC East. You got, Dolphins doing great. Bills doing great. Jets, they had some unforeseen things. What's that say about Salah? And then, of course, Bill Belichick in New England.
I'm going to unpopular opinion here. I think Salah's safe. Actually, that's not an unpopular opinion. Maybe it is, but I think Salah's safe. I think he would have been done better with Rodgers. The unpopular opinion is, I think either A, Bill Belichick is forced to retire, or B, he's forced out. I think this is his last couple. If this isn't his last year, this next year, and he does bad, will be his last couple of years as a Patriot coach.
Speaking into that, I think Salah's safe. He had the Aaron Rodgers got hurt. That's an excuse for him, and he had to last minute deal with Zach Wilson. So I don't care how bad this season is. I don't think he's got any troubles. I don't think Bill Belichick's on any sort of hot seat either. I think, they're not winning that division, but that guy has so much built up, and they always play a little better than we expected. Since Brady's left, we've always expected him to be like just super bottom, and they may not have won their division, but they're always kind of in there fighting a little more than I expect them to, actually. So I think he's got enough built up. I think he's safe. Brandon?
All right. Before we
I'd
move on to our
say
next
Salah is
All right.
safe,
Yeah.
but because you can chalk it up to hey, Rodgers is hurt. He is a defensive-minded coach. As long as their defense looks good, hey, Zach Wilson looked better. May not be the answer.
Better. He outperformed Patrick Mahomes, which we'll get into in a minute.
That's the big thing. So you're hoping for that year 3 jump with him, Wilson, and so we'll kind of see. Or if they lose again, or a certain team were to lose, maybe they trade somebody and get a different asset to bring in. I don't think Bill Belichick is on the hot seat. I mean, you look at their start of the schedule. Hey, you play the Eagles. they just went to the Super Bowl. You barely lost, and you had some turnovers, and you kind of blew it with Mac. You play the Cowboys. Hey, the Cowboys are really good. Also, probably Super Bowl contenders. You just played the Dolphins and held them in check, who also look like a Super Bowl contender. So I mean, it's more of just a super tough schedule. Hey, their defense is always great because Bill Belichick is a defensive-minded coach. So it's not shocking that, hey, the Patriots have a, in my opinion, unbiased top 5 defense. I think it's just luck of the schedule. I will say he is getting older. You know, how many in my life, I don't know a lot of 70-plus-year-olds who are up there top tier at being able to coach an NFL team. You know, and
How old
manage
is Andy
50-plus
Reid?
adults.
I'd say like 50.
I thought he was like high 50s or low 60s.
Andy Reid? Oh, he's got to be more than high 50s.
You think so?
65. Yeah.
You guys look that up.
And
You
that's
could do some fact checking for me there, but I just feel like he's got to be
He's
at least in his
65.
60s. He's what?
65.
Okay, I thought you said 55. I'm like, there's no way he's 55. He's
I was
65.
gonna say 55.
Okay.
And he's got like 200-plus wins. Wow.
65. Okay.
So I don't think
Yeah,
Bill
you're right.
Belichick. Yeah. No one's hot
So we-
seat for them.
No hot seats there. Let's go to the
So
AFC South.
Before we move on,
Oh,
our own fantasy league member Mop LaFleur has a question for you, Matthew. Matthew,
All right.
supposedly you had a horrible draft, as you said, but it's currently 3-1. Were there any surprise performers or some strategic moves in the last few weeks that made that happen?
well, I'll tell you this. I complained a lot about picking Tyreek Hill number 1 overall because I meant to pick a running back. I clicked on Tyreek Hill accidentally, which is not a bad number 1 first
Oh.
pick. It's just in my mind, I'm like, man, I never pick a wide receiver before I pick a running back. If I'm like, what was I, number 3 overall?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Christian McCaffrey was still there. Nick Chubb was still there. I would have picked both of those. Man, if I would have picked Nick Chubb, I would have been like so sad right now. Christian McCaffrey is doing well, but Tyreek Hill has not been bad for me. Also, I picked Anthony Richardson, pure homer move, expecting that my second pick would probably be better. And then for my second pick, I ended up picking Jordan Love, 2 like first-year quarterbacks. I'm like, what am I doing? But you know what? Both of those guys have ended up at times scoring me good points. Now, I don't always get them in at the right time. Last week, I had in Jordan Love. He didn't get me very much. And then Anthony Richardson ended up getting 33, 35, 36 points, something like that. I'm like, oh, I put in the wrong one. Each week, I'm like looking at those two thinking, which one of those is going to have a good week? Because a couple of weeks ago, Jordan Love did really well. Again, he does this thing where he like doesn't do much in the first half, it feels like. And then all of a sudden his score jumps up because they actually run some drives in that second half and do better. Jordan Love. Actually, the same thing happened with Anthony Richardson. I think that's kind of the rookie aspect of it here. But I think this week I'm going to go with Anthony Richardson because JT's, if he's back, I think that's going to throw a big confusion into the Tennessee Titans trying to figure out, do we stop the run? Which one, Anthony or JT? And what about the pass? And so I think that's going to work out well. But yeah, I complained a lot about how bad my draft was. And to be honest, I'm surprised. But at the same time, the last couple of years, we would go through the first part of the fantasy season and I would be sitting up pretty high. And then in the last few weeks, I would just drop right out and I would end up at like the spot just outside of the playoffs. So I'd be the top of the consolation prize, which always makes me feel like the first loser. It's the stupidest thing. But yeah, I know that I complained pretty heartily in our draft and Mop LaFleur has called me out on this. Oh yeah, how's that working out for you, this horrible draft, Mr. 3-1? So I will say this, I got really lucky to be 3-1 this last week. I think I scored 95 points or 96, and I just so happened to be up against the team who like everybody underperformed and they scored like 93. So it was
Nice.
by no means like a dominant win or maybe even a deserved win, but it is a win and I'm going to take that 3-1 into this next week and see what I can do. So thanks for the question though, Abigail. Now we're going to move on to the AFC South. AFC South, we got the Colts, Jags, Texans, and Titans. I'm going to be the first to say I don't think anybody's on the hot seat there. I think they're all kind of looking in an upward direction, except maybe Mike Vrabel. I'm not saying he's on a hot seat. I'm saying they may not be looking like they're in an upward direction right now, but I don't think he's in any danger.
Yeah, me too.
Sounds like we got agreement all around.
I think they're
so
on
it's just
a quarterback hot seat, not a
Yeah.
coach hot seat, but a quarterback hot seat for the Titans because Tannehill is not the guy. I don't understand why Hopkins chose Tennessee over any other team. But
I know. Why not Indy with
Like-
this hot new young quarterback?
it's
Or
crazy to
Texans,
think.
where he started with CJ Stroud.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that he was available, and also another player, Lamar Jackson, was available this offseason, and no one wants him, and he is up there for MVP potential.
Lamar Jackson, he just wanted a lot guaranteed, and you would have to give up firsts, possibly. I think it was just the way the situation
Right,
would
yeah.
have had to play out in order to get
Yeah.
him. It was too iffy. I think if he was
I mean,
like
if
an open free agent, I think people would have been all over it. But the fact that it was hey, we
Yeah.
might offer all this and then lose first round picks, they weren't up for that. Especially with the quarterbacks
I mean,
they ended up
if
getting.
you're the
who are looking
Falcons,
pretty
why
good.
would you not do that? Like, you can go get Lamar Jackson and use your team how you want to. Like, Falcons look awful. You put Lamar Jackson
could
in
try.
that system.
You could try to get Lamar Jackson. The thing is, they could have matched it and
Ravens
you
could have-
just lose
yeah.
first. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
that was the problem, I think. But yeah, you're right. Yeah, I think there is a quarterback controversy coming up because the problem is, who do you go to? I don't think Will Levis. Tennessee took Will Levis at whatever
I
number
think
they
you go
took
Will
him at.
Levis.
Huh?
I think you go Will Levis.
Will Levis, well, you got him. I personally don't think he's going to be very good in the NFL. Just personally. That's why I was so scared when everybody was saying the Colts like Will Levis. I'm like, no way. I will say this. I'm glad we did not end up with Bryce Young. And I'm not saying Bryce Young is bad, but I'm saying Bryce Young is suffering the Frank Reich curse. And that is Frank Reich always starts slow. And Frank Reich plays a really complicated offense that has, I think, everybody on that team like still trying to figure stuff out. And I think that's unfortunate for Bryce Young right now because both CJ Stroud and Anthony Richardson are looking exciting, getting wins. People are talking about them. Nobody's saying much about Bryce Young right now. So we'll see if that changes. Let's go on. AFC West, Chiefs, Chargers, Raiders, Broncos. Okay, now we're getting to some places where
Chargers,
there
Raiders.
might be some hot seats. Now, the funny thing is, I would say the Broncos, except they just got Sean Payton and they gave up a good bit to get him. I can't see them letting him go after one season. But boy, he was like, oh, with Nathaniel Hackett, you could not do any worse. And then he gets 70 dropped on him in a game versus Miami. He's looking bad. Now, they beat the Bears, but that's not saying a whole lot. I think I had that as my manure game this last week, Bears and Broncos. I'm like, who cares? You got 2-0-3 teams. Neither one of them look great. If either one of them wins, what does that say? Absolutely nothing. It just says one of them had to win. And so the Broncos won. But yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that it's his first year, I would definitely say Sean Payton. But I am going to say Josh McDaniels with the Raiders might be facing some hot seat. And maybe, what's his face with the Chargers?
Brandon Staley. Yep.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say McDaniels is, he got his quarterback. Jimmy G got hurt. That rookie they signed looks really good in the preseason, regular season, way different, but I don't think he's in the hot seat personally. I mean, they've had a chance to win every game and they've fallen short. So it's
I
either
started to say Al Davis, but Mark Davis also seems to stick with a coach maybe longer than he should, which I would say Jim Irsay has been guilty of that too with Frank Reich. We stuck with him maybe a little longer than we needed to, but maybe.
Staley for sure, absolutely. If there's so many things wrong with him. Every decision he makes in a crucial moment is the wrong decision, and I don't understand what he is selling the owners, what he's telling them in those meetings to keep his job. But he is such a bad coach, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chargers,
you hate to see that
disappointment.
because Justin Herbert has so much potential. You hate to see it wasted like year after year with like bad coaching, bad calls, that sort of stuff.
I know Brennan Colmark loves Herbert. I think he's a really good quarterback, but I feel like he's going to be a Phillip Rivers of going to put up a lot of good stats, and he's never going to win. And
What an
Chargers with
amazing
Rivers
comparison
almost
right there.
never won. But Rivers put up very good stats, pretty good quarterback, but getting good stats and knowing how to win are two different things in the NFL.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I also was a big fan of Justin Herbert. I love the way it looks. Him and Josh Allen both, and now Anthony Richardson. I'm just going to throw that in there. But when they just kind of throw that ball, it looks like they're not doing very much, and then it just like goes up and on and on and on. Both of them have or all three of them have like really good deep balls when they throw it. It looks so pretty. I always like Justin Herbert. I hope he can be more than Phillip Rivers, but he's with that organization, and it really does remind you of a Phillip Rivers-esque sort of career so far. Let's move on to NFC. Let's start with the North. NFC North, you got the Lions, the Packers, the Vikings, and the Bears. Okay, Lions, safe, man. Everybody loves Dan Campbell. Dan Campbell is exactly what you want a coach to be. Packers, I think LaFleur is fine. Vikings,
Safe. I think they're safe. They don't have a defense.
safe.
And they don't have an offensive line.
yeah, and I think the coach came in recently, right?
Last year.
He's been there shorter than Kirk
Like
Cousins.
2 years, 3 years maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I do think this might be a place where next year, I can't remember where we're at in the Kirk Cousins contract, but next year
Last
they
year.
could.
This is last year.
This
last
year is
year,
his last year.
Yeah, but he's playing
So-
like he might get re-signed, to be honest.
But would they re-sign him,
I don't
or
know.
would they let him go sign somewhere else?
That's the question.
So that might be a question. But the Bears, let's get to the Bears. Matt Eberflus.
He's out. He's done. Before
he's
midweek, before the end of the season is the real question, though.
Tell you what, the calls there have been pretty bad. The game calling.
They
He
looked
is a
better last
defensive
week,
coach.
which is good though. Like you're wanting to see growth by week 4 or so. They've looked better. They let Fields actually run the ball. So I don't know what was said, but like, hey, get your best player to do his best thing, which is running the ball. Don't make him to a pocket passer, 'cause that's not what he is. But Bears hot seat.
Then the
absolutely.
problem-
they stink.
Problem there is they're trying to see if they have any growth from Justin Fields, because everybody's like, oh, he can run the ball, but if he ever learns to pass it, he's never going to be the one to take him anywhere. And so if he just runs it the rest of this year, there's a place where they could end up with the worst. They're 0-4 right now. They could end up with the number 1 pick again, and Caleb Williams coming out might be enough for them to say, we'll trade Justin Fields. And somebody in this league is going to take a chance on Justin Fields, thinking, you know what, I can do better with him. And so I do think we could be seeing a quarterback change. As talented as everybody says Justin Fields is with his legs, they haven't yet seen that throwing game. And if they try to get it, Eberflus might lose his job. He might lose his job anyway, and they might get a new quarterback and say, hey, we're going to get a new coach, quarterback, start this thing, blow it up, get rid of a bunch of pieces and start over. And they'd be wise to do that. They do have some draft capital they got last year from that trade down. If they can get the number 1 overall pick this year, that would just be insanely good for them. If they can use some of those extra draft picks they got, really build a young team, start getting somebody in there who can do it right. Of course, what happens is I'm giving hope to Bears fans that they know it's all false. Every hope ends up being tragedy, right? Let's go on to the NFC East. I haven't done them yet, right? So we got the Eagles, Cowboys,
Safe.
Commanders, Giants.
Hot seat.
I'd say 2 of those are hot seats.
I'm going to guess the 2 are the 2 lowest in the rankings. Giants, Commanders, is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about it, guys.
I just think, look, Ron Rivera, great personnel, not personnel, but like player coach, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much of a good play caller. So I think the move here, as a Commanders fan, like he's went 7 since Washington, 7-9, 7-10, 8-8, and then 2-2 right now. If he gets another losing, like with new ownership, if he gets another losing season or even season, let's just say losing because it's 17 games now, losing season and no playoff berth, I think a new ownership coming from a team that has a winning culture in Philadelphia, the Philadelphia 76ers with Josh Harris. I think they get tired of seeing what he's been, he's had this amount of years left. He's signed all these quote unquote players, these fill-in players, these guys that aren't the best in the draft or aren't the best in free agency, but they'll do good enough, like Andrew Wiley or these other guys or Nick Barton the last year, and they're not doing anything. If not, they're hurting the team more. But and you sign these guys and they're not doing anything. But I think Josh Harris looks at these guys, looks at Ron Rivera and he sees, all right, he's been here 4 years now. Great player coach, great culture guy. We've already started to change the culture. We have a new ownership inbound. I think it's time we start winning, and Ron Rivera is not the guy. So I think either A, Josh Harris asks him, hey, you're kind of getting, I guess to say it lightly, you're kind of getting up there in age, you might retire soon. Do you want to become like a Bruce Arians type thing and become a personnel player, like personnel staff, like an executive, whatever? Or B, he just fires him and promotes Eric Bieniemy. Either way, I see Eric Bieniemy with the play calling he's done in the only 4 games so far. It's improved drastically from last year. I think that Eric Bieniemy, either way, if he's fired or if Ron Rivera's fired or promoted to front office or whatever, I think Eric Bieniemy is our new head coach. Either way.
That's interesting. I do see Ron Rivera has been making some calls that are a little bit questionable, like not going for it at the end of that game.
I'd like to talk about that in a minute, though.
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
But go all the way back to last year when they had a chance to still make the playoffs, and he did not play Howell. He played, was it Wentz?
He didn't play Heineke. He played Wentz instead.
He played Wentz, right? And and it's like, he's like, oh, I didn't realize what I had, and I didn't realize this was a playoff possibility. All of that, like, really begin to make me think, okay, Ron Rivera, are you still really able to do this job?
How do you not know that as the head coach? Like, how do you not? How has no one told you, hey, we're still in the playoffs? My hot take is, for everyone listening, Ron Rivera, he went to the playoffs 4 times as a head coach. He's had 3 winning seasons. I'll repeat that again for those who don't know one-on-one math. 4 playoff appearances, 3 winning seasons.
And how many?
He's not the guy.
I just pulled it up. Let me go look at how many seasons he's coached, so I can give a ratio. Or we can give a ratio basically. So, 11 to 23. So that's 14 years, or it's 13 years. Sorry, 13 years, 4 winning seasons, 5 playoff berths, and a great player guy. Nothing else to show for it.
Yeah, he could be on the hot seat. And so as we go through the rest of this season, we're going to keep an eye out for who Josh is like. I guess Josh already said he thinks it's going to be Bieniemy. So maybe that's not like you're looking around for like what coach could be that. You feel like you have that guy in the building.
I think it has to be Bieniemy, because in the past we've let too many guys go that are in the NFL right now that have gone to be successful head coaches. Under the Mike Shanahan tenure, we had Kyle Shanahan, we had Matt LaFleur, sorry. We had Mike McDaniels, and we had Sean McVay and Kevin O'Connell. All of them have built a winning culture in their respective organizations. One of them's been to the Super Bowl. The other has been to a couple of championships. And the Vikings, they're building a great organization. The Dolphins, they're a top team in the league right now. And you just can't let these guys go. So I think new ownership looks at this, the past, what Dan Snyder's done, and maybe hopefully history doesn't repeat itself and he doesn't make these mistakes. And it's like, all right, we have this staff that are very talented, and we're not going to let them leave. And if our current head coach isn't not working out, then we might as well promote one of these guys and see what he does. If we find out he doesn't do anything well, then at least we know, and we don't move. He doesn't move on to someone else and create a Super Bowl team out of them.
True. So it's all a matter of if Bieniemy is play calling and they do well enough, will they keep Ron Rivera?
And I guess. That might be an option. Just if we make the playoffs, I know all of it falls on the head coach in the end. Like all of it falls on the boss. That's how it goes in a company setting. But if his play calling does well and we make the playoffs, I can see us keeping Ron Rivera as a player connectable coach, I guess, if that makes sense. And everything in the offensive minded side is Eric Bieniemy. And you look for I also think we need to look for a new defensive coordinator. But
let's look at the Giants. Giants made this massive contract for Drew.
You always get it mixed up. I'm gonna wait till you say it because I know you get it mixed up.
Daniel Jones.
There you go.
Started to say Drew Lock.
Drew
It was
Lock.
2 for Daniel Jones, and that is not looking like it was a good deal. Who's their who's their head coach right now?
Brian Dable.
Dable.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about him?
I don't think it's all on Dable. Like, Daniel Jones has no time. Like, if you thought, I forget who has a bad offensive line, but when you watch those last couple of
They
games,
have a bad offensive line.
they have one of the worst offensive lines. And
The
Daniel
problem
Jones
is-
isn't like super crazy athletic, but
No, he's
he just
not,
has no
but-
time to throw. And there's no halftime adjustments of like, hey, our offensive line is getting crushed. Let's not make plays that are 15, 20, that takes 4 or 5 seconds to play. Hey, throw some screens underneath routes. It's not that hard of an adjustment to make, but I don't get why they don't do it.
That would be on the head coach.
I would even go as far as saying that the Giants have the worst offensive line in the league, not based off statistical, percentage wise, but if you look at let's just say the top 3 worst offensive lines in the league, Bears, Giants, and Commanders, all 3 probably top 3 in the worst in the league. But if you look at the Giants compared to those other 2, the Giants have stars in Evan Neal and Andrew Thomas at left tackle, and for some reason they're still crumbling every single time he drops back. And the Commanders have nothing. The Bears have nothing. So if you compare those players, not statistically, they have the worst offensive line in the league, and there's no reason, no explanation of why they have that.
So the Giants and the Commanders could be looking at new coaches. Oh no, you guys say Giants are probably safe.
I don't know.
There needs to be some adjustments if something needs to change.
Maybe their
And
offensive
unfortunately, because of how
coordinator,
how the NFL works, it won't be Daniel Jones who loses his job. It'll be the coach who loses his job.
I think, yeah.
Well, let's head to the NFC South then. We got the Buccaneers. This was thought to be the worst division going into this year. Surprisingly, it's not. Buccaneers, Falcons, Saints, and Panthers. I would say the Panthers, except they just got Frank Reich. And it's that thing where they're going to give him more than one season because he had super young. They traded away their best receiver. So he's got reasons why, maybe he'll be better going forward. So I think Frank Reich's okay there.
I agree.
I'm glad. I mean, I loved Frank Reich as a person, but I'm so glad he's not with the Colts right now. I really do like Shane Steichen's play calling more. How about Saints, Falcons, Bucks?
All safe. I think they're all the way they're playing now. I think they're all safe.
I think if Baker Mayfield would have come out and laid big eggs and Bucks would have been bad, there might have been something there. But he's actually winning them games. He's leading that division.
Falcons, I think, they just have too young of a quarterback and overall team to give up on a second-year head coach now at first. And then the Saints, I can see it. I can see that happening. Out of every team in that division, I can see the Saints firing their coach most likely. But I don't see it happening. If you're ranking it based off teams that might happen, I think the Saints are there. But I just think they have a new quarterback. I think they have a new offensive coordinator too. I think they wait a year to see what else happens next year, and then maybe think about that.
Yeah. Any dissident there, Brandon? Any different opinion?
Frank Reich, I would say it's heating up. You got a rookie
He's
quarterback.
only 4 games into his tenure there.
4 games in, but the eye test says it doesn't look good. There hasn't been a lot of growth or signs of growing with the quarterback and Frank Reich, who I don't know how he was deemed the quarterback whisperer when all of his quarterbacks he chooses are, I'll say it, awful. It's heating up for sure. Rookie quarterback, we'll see. Falcons, I would say, is also heating up because they also don't look very good. It's rookie quarterback as well, but also you're underusing your offensive talents, aka Kyle Pitts, and your defense is it's okay, but they're heating up. Saints are okay. They got a good defense. If the Bucks would have been awful starting, I think they would have been as well. But Baker, I've seen Baker lead a team to the playoffs. I know he can do it. The Bucks have a pretty good offense and a defense who has been to the Super Bowl, so all the signs are there to do well, but still early. But I think they're safe.
Not gonna lie, the Buccaneers are gonna bust our pick record because we just thought they were gonna be horrible, and they're looking better than they.
Buccaneers and Bengals. Yep.
Yeah, both. Yeah, the opposites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the NFC West. We got 49ers, Seahawks, Rams, and Cardinals. I would have said Cardinals at the beginning of this year. I'd have been like, yeah, obviously they're tanking. They're going to lose their coach.
First year coach. I would have said they're all safe right at the start.
I thought he was just like a Jeff Saturday. We're going to throw this guy in and like let him be a sacrificial lamb at the end of the year when we get the coach we really want and the player we really want. But I know they're only 1-3. It's not like they're winning, but they're playing tough. They're playing tough in every game, even if they're losing. And they did, beat the crazy Cowboy win there. So it's hard to say, but you're probably right. First year coach, they're seeing like flashes of goodness.
They don't even have the starting quarterback yet either. So
right.
So yeah, I think they're all safe in that division.
Right.
I mean,
and that's what you're looking for in these coaches that are young.
Yeah. Okay, so that's what we think about. So how many did we end up saying are on the hot seat? Did anybody keep count?
Table, McDaniel, Staley. I said Belichick, so I'm the only person that said this. So I'm not going to count that. I think 4, maybe 5, and Eberflus, so 5.
Yeah,
5 we all agreed on basically, or closely. 2/3 of us agreed on was 5.
Okay, so that's what we think, guys. Right now, as of week 4, we think there's probably about 5 coaches that are on the hot seat, or at least they're heating up to uncomfortable temperatures. So we'll keep our eye on that as the season goes on. Let's go ahead and look at week 4 that just happened. Do a little recap. Now, first of all, we have here week 4 review. And why do we have week 4 recap separately?
So these are the games that are homer games, Patriots, Cowboys, and this is just
Gotcha.
other things that
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So reviewing our homer games this last week. Now I'm a little hesitant to say anything about MVP because last week I said, looking back at week 3? Was that when Gardner Minshew played?
Yeah.
So he was my MVP, but we didn't get that little social media clip out until Monday after the Colts played. And then here we are after the Colts played this game. Anthony Richardson did all this stuff. My face comes on social media saying, Gardner Minshew's my MVP. And I had some people ask me, he's like, why is Gardner Minshew your MVP? I'm like, no, that was for the week before. It just came out really. So I'm a little hesitant to say.
Oh, this is for this past week. Like
it is for the past week, but if it comes out after the next game, I'm going to have to make a clarifier on that. That for week 4, Anthony Richardson was my MVP. He is showing poise out there. He's continuing to grow. He, started off bad, 23-0. I was like, oh no, and I was like, okay, it's our growing year. Then we came back, and I got really excited that we could win. And we ended up not winning. But I did see, again, Anthony Richardson did not lose it when he was down bad. He kept it together. He did what he needed to do. He came back, threw no interceptions, didn't make any stupid mistakes, and brought the team back with a chance to win. And we didn't win. The coin flip happened. Rams got it. We had some penalties that gave them a super good first down, got them way up there. And they ended up finishing off like they should, which I was just like amazed that with Matthew Stafford hobbling as bad as he was. I don't know if you guys watched that game. Mm-hmm. His hip or something got hurt. And he looked like he could barely walk, and he stayed in the game. I'm like, our defense better feast on this guy. And yet we could not stop them on that overtime drive, and they ended up winning. But I would say overall, I'm still excited about who the Colts are. And somebody asked me after the game, are you more down that we didn't win that, or are you more excited about the progress you saw with our young quarterback? And I'm like, can I pick both? I was a bit down because I really thought we could have won that one, been 3-1, been in the lead in our division. But at the same time, I'm super excited about who Anthony Richardson is continuing to be. And I know that right now, CJ Stroud probably has better numbers as far as like yards and stuff like that. But Anthony Richardson did sit out a game, and just looking at what he brings to our offense in keeping people guessing, I still would pick him every time over CJ Stroud. I like Anthony Richardson. I like that our team is exciting again. And so I am looking forward to this next week. I guess we'll get to that in the preview. So my MVP for week 4, in case this is a clip that's after the game next week, for week 4, I pick Anthony Richardson. It's my most valuable player.
It's tough to put these clips all because I don't want to oversaturate the social media stuff I put on. So I know for a fact that I have to put the Marquee Manure my locks and upsets of the week first before Sunday happens.
Before the locks, right?
Yeah, exactly. So then this stuff comes out Monday, Tuesday, so.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm not dogging Josh.
Yeah,
in this,
I know.
But
Yeah.
do you want to make it known to all you see in this clip?
I do put the graphics out the day after, so that kind of helps.
So anyway, Colts had a pretty good game. They did have a chance to win it. LA did play. What's his name? Pikachu. What's his name? The new who?
Puka
Is that it? Puka?
Yeah.
Puka?
Nuka.
Him. That guy is like a revelation. And I tell you what, Matthew Stafford is so glad he has him because Kupp is still hurt, right? Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he just came off IR, so he may
just came off IR. So that's going to be even better for the Rams.
When does he come back?
Either this week or next week.
But anyway, the Rams, they have like this other guy who just, everybody knows he's going to get the ball, and yet we still can't stop him. That's the same thing I always said about Cooper Kupp. It's like, Cooper Kupp is going to get this ball, and yet nobody can stop him just over and over and over again. So that's going to be even worse for Rams opponents now that they have 2 of those kind of guys. And Stafford is still a good quarterback who, even when his hip is hurting, can get the ball out quick and can get the ball out accurately. So good for the Rams. I'm really glad that the Colts came back and that it wasn't like a 23-0 blowout or worse. But yeah, that's kind of the way I think of this last week's game. How about the Commanders, Josh? How did they look?
So just like Matthew's game, my game went in overtime. My game was closer than expected. Only difference was we didn't have to make a crazy comeback to get to that point. We were, I'd say, winning like 50% or more of the time. But this game surprised me more than I thought it would, and I think it surprised everybody else. Just the way the Commanders team as a whole played against the reigning Super Bowl I guess losers, but reigning Super Bowl, yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it. Reigning Super Bowl losers, but it's, I guess, a top team in the league. The way they played against a top team in the league after losing like 42-3 or something to the Bills, another top team in the league, really surprised me, and it really made me realize that against anybody, this team can put up numbers, and they just have to have everything has to go right, and everything did go right except the score. Everything as a whole, the team has to go right. It's hard to explain, but a lot of things went right
except the score and the final win.
Everything went. A lot of things went right basically, and I'm really surprised with what this team went, especially Sam Howell. After 4 interceptions and 150 yards against the Bills, he came back and he had like 200 something yards, no interceptions, a touchdown, and he just balled out. And he showed me, and I feel like he showed a lot of people that once this guy gets ready and once this guy gets more prepared and a couple more games under his belt, this guy's going to be ready to perform at a high level, and with an offense line hopefully coming couple years. This guy's going to be a quarterback that people are going to have to game plan over and stay up all night before the game studying his film. Cornerbacks are going to have to do that. I feel like this guy is our quarterback. I'm just watching this game.
You're all in on Howell.
Basically, I'm all in on Howell until he proves me wrong for like a lengthy amount of time, not just one game against the top team in the league like the Bills. Until he proves me wrong, 3 interception game, 2 interception game, no touchdowns for like 4 or 5 game stretch, I'd say this is our guy. And we need to build around him, which very well that the Colts did the exact same thing. They found Luck, they found their guy. Offensive line not built around him. Weapons definitely built around him. They had T.Y. Hilton, they had Jack Doyle, they had Kobe Fleener. They just did not have the offensive line to protect him, which forced him to retire. And I'm telling you all right now that if you get an offensive line for Sam Howell, he's going to do some work and he's going to be dangerous in this league. So in overtime, we had a play, I think it was 3rd and short or 3rd and 10 or something like that, where they called it out of bounds. And I just want to share really quick that this was an inbound play. I'm putting it on screen right now. It was third and 5 or something, down at the Eagles 25-yard line. So we had 75-yard, or our 25-yard line, sorry. So we had 75 yards to go to get touchdown to win the game, or a field goal to put it into sudden death. And they called this this play right here. I'll zoom it in real quick. They've called this, I know you can't really see it well because it's kind of blurry, but they call this out of bounds. You can clearly see the top of his toe is touching inbounds, although it's the back of his foot is on the defender's arm, or the defender's arm. This is clearly a inbounds call, and they miscalled it, which ultimately lost us the game. We had to punt it away, and they went down and scored the game-winning field goal. So, some missed calls in the game, but we stuck with one of the best teams in the league, and I'm proud of it. Defensive line, like I said, the whole team overall played great, but the defensive line really showed out. A couple sacks, a lot of pressures, made Jalen Hurts really uncomfortable at times, and that's kind of what you need to succeed going against a top offensive line like the Eagles had. Lastly, Emmanuel Forbes, our rookie quarterback we drafted in the first round, had a very, very rough game to say the least, but I expect him to get better, honestly. I mean, you can't really put him up against one of the best receivers in the league in back-to-back weeks, and Stephon Diggs and A.J. Brown, and expect him to have like 3 interceptions, 10 pass defenses, and one reception for each receiver. You just can't have that. But I think mostly what I am more, saddened about, or I guess that's the best word, is after the game, a lot of fans went onto Twitter and basically tagged him in all these tweets saying, this guy's trash, whatever, because he had a bad game against A.J. Brown. And they basically made him delete his Twitter, or delete his account. And as a fan base, as a part of this fan base, I'm really, embarrassed to be a part of that. But as a fan, overall, you just can't do that. This guy's going to learn. He's going to get better. He has the talent. He has the speed. And he's just going to get better overall. And, he's going to have bad games. Everybody has bad games. Everybody has bad days. And they're going to make up for it. And you just can't go over bashing people on Twitter for it. So that's, all I have to say about our game. My MVP was Jahan Dotson. I mean, he didn't have the greatest stat line. I think it was like 2 receptions for something like 30, 40 yards, but he did get the game tying touchdown for us within the closing seconds of the game to send us to overtime. So that's why I picked him overall.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the very end, just before overtime? You have all the momentum. You just scored a touchdown.
Oh, yes.
Why not go for 2? And this is why Rivera is not a good coach.
Exactly. I was
Go
going to
for
bring that
2.
up.
You've got
I forgot it.
chance to win the game.
And yes, so Ron Rivera, we were just talking about this, and I said I mentioned it earlier, so thank you for reminding me. But Ron Rivera, in the press conference after the game, literally quote for quote said, not quote for quote, but basically I'm paraphrasing it, saying, I felt we had like Brandon said, we had the momentum, we just scored the game tying touchdown if we kicked the extra point. But Ron Rivera, known for his nickname Riverboat Ron, going for it on 4th down, going for it in these gutsy calls, opts to kick the field goal to tie it to go to overtime. His reasoning, I just felt our guys were gassed. We just drove down the field. We scored. All our players are tired. The stupidest reason ever. You expect only our players to be tired? We just drove down on a field on the same defense that we're going to go for 2 points against. They're going to be gassed too. So either way, it's an even matchup. If we are gassed, they're gassed. If we're full of energy, they're full of energy. You can't just say we're gassed because you didn't feel like going for 2. You got to either live up to your nickname of Riverboat Ron or just don't say something like that, because either way, our players were gassed, their players were gassed. We go for 2. I would have rather lost the game going for 2, having the chance to win the game, because at least that shows we have, we wanted to win. We didn't want to go to overtime and, play for a victory, but we had the gutsy call to go for the win and try it at least. But even if we lost 1 point to the Eagles, which is a top 10 team, top 5 team in the league. I would have been satisfied with that. I'm satisfied with the way we lost still, but I would have been more satisfied with a 1-point loss going for 2. And overall, you can't say something like, oh, we're gassed. Our players were gassed. So were the other players.
Yeah. Yeah. Riverboat Ron, you watch your seat, buddy. It's getting warm here in Josh's corner. It's getting pretty hot. Hey, we like to always talk about our homer teams, and we give our guests that opportunity too. Brandon has always been our local Patriots fan. So what did you think about the Patriots game, Brandon?
I see Matthew smiling. So I'm gonna break some news. I guess
What?
when I came to CCH at the time, and it's just Tom Brady's, still with the Patriots. They're very dominant. Everyone hates them because they're winning, and they don't like to see the same teams over and over.
I'm just going to say
Well,
this.
I liked the Patriots.
Everyone didn't hate them. They were the most popular team in the country, but keep going.
Yeah, so they're a polarizing team, just like the Cowboys. You either hate them or you love them, and that's the Patriots with Belichick and Brady. You either hated them or loved them. Now
So you love them.
I liked them, and it was just known of, he likes them. He must be a homer team.
Well, you did say Patriots were your team several times to me.
No, I think
I believe you
fell
did.
into peer pressure. I have never had a favorite team in almost 30 years of living.
I sense a bailing of the bandwagon. He is off. Is that what I'm hearing here, Brandon?
Oh no, I don't think I was ever on the Patriots. Like, if you know a diehard Patriots fan, it is Blake Faith. It is
hard.
evident they
Whoa,
are
whoa, whoa.
a
Blake
homer.
Faith,
Whoa.
not
Blake
anymore.
Faith bailed before you.
Yeah, he blew.
Why?
Yeah, he came on our
Yeah.
podcast in August or something before the season,
that's
helping
fair.
predict. And he's like, I just want to say now that I chose my. So he's been going. Speaking of that, before I get to that, he's been going on in these, I guess, posts or whatever, and he's like, I'm picking this team. So I guess he chose Ohio State as his college team because he's never been into college. He chose whatever, but when I came out in August and he's like, the Cowboys are my team. I'm sticking to it. And if I say any different, you can play this clip back and I'll stick to the Cowboys. So he's no longer a Patriots fan, I guess.
I mean, I still like the Patriots. I like a lot of teams. I've never had a favorite team across any sport: basketball, football, soccer. Even in my baseball time frame, I didn't really care for baseball now, but I've never had a favorite team. So I guess I'll disclaim. I'm not disclaiming the Patriots. I like the Patriots. I like the Colts. I don't like the Commanders. Sorry. You get rid of Ron Rivera, I might like watching the Commanders.
It's all right.
So I don't really have a homer team, but I will say, I didn't watch the Patriots game anyways. I was busy that day. The Patriots offense does not look good. Cowboys look really good.
Hold on. Let's not just jump into this and gloss over. So you're saying you're not a Patriots. Do you have a team you like more now?
I don't have a homer team.
He has no team he likes.
That's not what I said.
Okay, no team that you like most.
Sure. I've never had a homer team.
Goodness. Okay, I'm going to point you back to some
I also
previous
don't
episodes
have like a parent
Brandon did say he was a Patriots homer. We do have those recorded.
You guys were saying, you got to pick someone. I said, fine, and I'll do the Patriots. I don't. Not a homer.
Fine. I think it was a little more energetic. Than that. But we're gonna let him say what he wants to say in the frame he wants to put it in. But we now have Brandon, who has no homer team, no team he roots for above all else. Now, I will say this:
just call me a hobo. I'm a homerless.
A true
team.
fan is the fan that roots for their team when they do well and when they don't do well. He's saying he's never been a true fan of any team, so we're gonna allow that. But so he has no team right now that, well or not well, he is there. That is his team. So we're gonna have to get Brandon to commit here over this year to a team that is his team. That's something that, as a football fan, to just be like, I like all football. That's okay for passerby fans, the fan who's like a medium fan, but when you're a football fan, you got to have a team. You got to have your team. So I want you to take a close look. Figure out who that's going to be.
Your kids Colts fans?
No, absolutely not. And I already told them. I told them they did not have to be Colts fans. My son, right now, he likes the Colts, but he roots for the Eagles. And I told him that can be his team. That is fine. The Green Eagles is what he calls them. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't grow up in an environment that was all about this one team. You can only watch one Colts game. I get to watch all of the games with equal rooting interests.
Oh, I watch all the games and I have a definite rooting in each one, but Colts are my team. I do. I root for a team in every game. But I will say this, Josh, I don't know if we can have Brandon Harris back on here as a co-host with this line of reasoning.
Sorry, guys. I just
ask him about soccer. The guy goes crazy.
I don't have a favorite soccer team either. I just like
What?
watching soccer. I like watching football. I like watching basketball. I don't have to have one team. So
This
I don't
does
have a
not
homer
compute.
team. Sorry. I know everyone is all about one team. So sorry. But I will say, I'll throw one little MVP nuggets for those that are who may not know. You know, the Jaguars game played in London in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. There was also a Toy Story version that did really well.
Did you watch that?
No, I was busy.
So far, I have not talked to anybody who has watched it. I heard several
Brandon
people
watched the
talk
game.
about it was going to happen. Did Brandon watch it? Brandon Comark?
I've heard very good things. That there were some slight delays, but also understandable. But I've heard it was very good, and you know, all the kids got more into it. It's more kid oriented because it's Toy Story. But also,
So I didn't watch
hey,
it at
adults,
all.
you
Did
watched
they
it.
have like Woody as like one of the
Yeah.
quarterbacks and Buzz
No.
as one of the
They were
quarterbacks?
all
How did that
players.
No,
work?
it's all player animations, but the Toy Stories were like on the sideline doing celebrations, and you know, like Slinky would be a hey
The
false
yardage-
start. Slinky
He
would
was
go
the-
back,
He was the yardage
and then his
marker
head
guy.
would come back. So
Let me find a picture.
They did
real
really
quick,
well.
I'll show you.
Sounds like the Nickelodeon thing. You know, they're definitely trying to get a younger audience. I had no interest in watching the
Yeah, I'll
Toy
share
Story
a
version.
screen real quick.
but
And I'll show a picture.
not
Yeah.
saying it was bad.
Oh,
but
let's
I've
look
heard
at
it was really well. I don't know if they're going to do it again. I hope so. It's interesting. It's pretty cool to see.
This is
But
overall what the game kind of looked like.
I can't see them. They're all too small. Just a bunch of green fields.
You can't zoom in either, so. So, let's take the screen. So
you might have to click
Oh.
on the image. But
yeah, maybe.
it did really
I'll look
well
at it.
from what I've
I'll look
heard.
at it off air sometime, see what it looks like. But okay, so that happened with who did Jags play?
Jaguars. Oh, the Falcons. Sorry.
Falcons. Yeah.
So is that your game you're picking, Mr. I have no team?
The Jaguars?
Yeah. I mean for this
No.
week.
Oh, for this week?
That's what you talked about.
Well, I just know that that's something different than a typical
Well,
streaming.
Sounds like Brandon's having a little internet
Unless-
issue there. He's kind of stuttering through,
this
but
flow.
yeah. Okay. Well, there's Brandon talking about a team that's different. No homer team. If any of you out there are people who like, I love football, but no homer team, you can drop in our comments on any of our social medias and say, hey, I agree with
Yes,
Brandon
join me.
because I do not understand this mentality except from those casual fans who just like Super Bowl shows with Taylor Swift in them. So this is hard for me to understand that Brandon's coming at this, but maybe there's more of you out there. You can all jump in and say, I'm with Brandon. I hate having a favorite team. Let's just root for football. Go sports.
I don't hate it. I just never did have a favorite. Matthew's putting words in my mouth.
I like to twist things, especially
He sure-
with Brandon.
He sure does.
Hey, let's go to our week 4 recap of other teams, other games that were not our homers. For Brandon, this is like all of
This
his teams.
This is
as
him.
he-
right up
He's
my
just
alley.
watching.
Brandon, you can lead this one.
Yeah, let's let Brandon lead this. Brandon, why don't you do our because we obviously only watch our team's games. Tell us what happened in the other NFL games.
Well, you know, the big story would be the Dolphins and the Bills game. The Dolphins coming off a historic offensive day, going up against the juggernaut that people think the Bills are, and it is evident they are. And the Bills put a smacking to them. Not only did they put up 40 plus points, which is what I like as a fan. I want a killer mentality. Don't try and ice the game. Hey, go score 35 plus points and see what their team can do. And their defense really held Tyreek and Waddle to a pretty average game for them. I say average, but that's probably above average for other teams. Bills Dolphins, I think they'll still come back. Those two will be the top two in the AFC East. You know, the Bengals. I think Joe Burrow should have just sat like a lot of people told him he should have. I don't get the toughness mentality of, hey, if you're hurt and you can't move, it's way smarter long-term for your team because there's 17 games. Hey, just go sit a game or two and then come back fully healthy because it's evident the Bengals are in trouble. The Bengals, I'll say it here now, are not making the playoffs. They just look stinky. They don't look very well. very good.
I think I'm going to agree with you on that. I really have been high on the Bengals since Burrow's gotten there and Chase has gotten there, but I do think this year they missed the playoffs, and I think they may come back on a tear at some point, but I think they're going to be too far behind the 8 ball. I'm going to say that and watch them go crazy, but I agree with you. I don't think they'll make the playoffs. And
AFC is
we picked them
just
to win
too-
everything
too-
like forever.
AFC's too stacked. It's you can't
Mhm.
have a slow start. It's super competitive. They may make a run once Burrow gets healthy because they typically are a slow starting team, but they
They were last year.
they don't do
but
it this year.
0-2.
They miss the playoffs.
And so this last one, we're not going to make you say it because I think this is Josh's words. Josh, what happened on this last thing here?
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said last week, actually, my manure game was the Chiefs Jets, and I said for the reason of, and mostly because I figured Taylor Swift would be shown 100 million times, but if you take Taylor Swift out of this game, no Taylor Swift, no zoom in, pan shots to her. The Chiefs Jets game was very much a my game. Zach Wilson outperformed Patrick Mahomes in every aspect of the game. And I believe it came down to just the fact that the refs honestly were on the Chiefs side the whole time. I mean, every fan can say that.
Yep.
But when you're looking at the missed holding calls, the miss offensive, the false starts, and especially that holding call on Sauce Gardner, where it was like holding within 3 lines of the line scrimmage, picks it off, and then throws the flag, you can easily see that this game was just badly called. And I don't know if it was rigged or just, whatever, probably not rigged, but it was just poorly called in the Chiefs' favor.
Yeah, I think everybody, man, Salah on the sidelines was
because
livid.
he was like one of the first coaches I've
Animated,
ever seen get a not an unnecessary roughness, but a personal foul, I guess, if you want to call it.
Personal.
Yeah, whatever. He's the first coach I've ever seen get one of those. So he was livid about this whole game. And they really should have won the game. Like if it wasn't,
Yeah.
I'll throw another game out there. The Lions Packers. I know there's a lot of Packers fans out there. I think this was the first time in about 50 years that the Lions were favorited in a game over the Packers. I know that there was, the contention of, are the Packers good or are the Lions good? There's that open division for them, and Packers look
fine.
Questionable offense. Jordan Love's getting in the system, but the Lions look really good, and I think people should be aware that the Lions are. Not a contender up with like the Eagles and Niners, but they're up there. They're
going to make some noise.
They're hard out.
I've said it before. I love Dan Campbell, but there's also a little piece of me that feels like poor Jared Goff really got kind of trashed when he was traded from LA to the Lions. Everybody's like, oh, why are they taking Jared Goff? And he's done nothing but have really good offensive output.
Yes.
So I'd love to see him do well too. I still want the Colts to do, great when it comes to Homer team stuff, but I do have this place in my heart that I would love to see the Lions just tear it up and go all the way. So that was week 4 in recap. I think that's a good game to throw in there at the end. Let's look a little bit ahead here. Week 5 coming up, what we think is going to happen, at least with Homer teams. Brandon, you can just pick a team that you want to talk about since you don't have that. But for me, Titans at Colts. I see this as so there's two games here in a row for the Colts that are division games. We have Titans this week. We have Jaguars next week. I'm just going to be honest. If we could only win one of those, we had to split. I would prefer they beat the Jags next week because we already lost to the Jags once. We don't want any sweeps happening here. So if we have to lose one, I would rather lose the one to the Titans. But I really think we have a chance to win this one, especially if JT plays. I think Shane Steichen's doing all he can to keep their coaching staff in the dark, not knowing exactly how to prepare 100%. JT may not play, but if he does, I think there's a high chance that the Colts come out strong and do well. So far, we haven't seen DeAndre Hopkins go off in Tennessee, mostly because the quarterback play, I think. I think we're still going to have our hands full. I don't think it's a gimme game at all with Derrick Henry there and DeAndre Hopkins and, the players that they have. But I do think that they have taken a step backward a little bit from previous years, and we're taking a little bit of a step forward. So I'm going to say Colts are going to win this one. Score prediction is Let's say it's going to be like 17-21. Yeah, it's going to be close. I'm just pulling that out. I haven't really thought about why that score would happen, or how that score would happen. But I'm going to say Colts win 21-17.
All right. My Bears Commanders, they play tonight actually. So I'll probably be either finding the game on one of those like I guess jank sites that live streams games for free, 10 seconds behind or whatever. Or I'll ask, I don't know. But this one, it's tough because you look at the game, you look at the team, and you look at the injury report, and you're like, the Commanders should win easily. But the Bears are on like a 15 or something game losing streak. And that just makes me feel like this is one of those trap games, as they call in sports, or I think that's what they call it.
Yeah.
But where the Bears could win. And part of me feels like that. And part of me feels like that because of the way because it's Ron Rivera. You know, he has that coaching mentality, not that coaching mentality, but he has that way of coaching, if that makes sense. Like last week I said, if this is the game that the Eagles win, I mean, if the Commanders, if this is the game Ron Rivera pulls out of his hat because he does it every year. Last year was the Eagles. The year before was the Steelers. It would have been this game, and it was close. But I feel like he also has a way with losing games he should easily win, and this is one of them. So my heart wants me to say Commanders because that's my homer team, but honestly, I don't know what to expect of this game, so I'm just going to give a random score prediction, and I'm just going to say the Commanders win because they're my homer team. I'm just going to say 24-14, honestly, and I don't know what to expect of this game. This game is at a complete loss for me just because of what's going into this game. Every stat, every whatever.
If the Bears win this, I think Ron Rivera's seat is going to
very hot,
massively heat up because they are such a bad team right now. Every Bears fan I know, and I live in Illinois, so I know lots of Bears fans. They're disgusted when they even think about the Bears. They don't want to talk about the Bears. Yep. They shake their head whenever I bring anything up about the Bears. So yeah, everybody knows the Bears are not a team that's looking up right now. So Brandon, what do you got for us? What game are we picking here?
Let's see. I will shed some light. I don't gamble, but I look at gambling sites because it tells me what people think it is. People that are smarter than me or have better systems. But they do say that the Colts and Titans game 21-17 is the popular score in the Titans' favor.
In the Titans' favor. I just picked that score out of nowhere, but I think it's going to be flipped.
Yeah. And then in your the Commanders game, the Commanders are favorited with the projected 26-20 is the score line.
Close enough.
Is the popular
All right, so what game are you going to pick? Out of here, I'll show you the games we have going on here. We'll add this to the screen. These are the games this week. So we got Bears Commanders, Jacksonville Buffalo, Houston Atlanta, Carolina Detroit, Tennessee Indy, New York Miami, New Orleans New England. Got the news going on there. Baltimore Pittsburgh, Cincinnati Arizona.
Let's stop right there. I'll talk about that one. How about a divisional game at week 5? The Baltimore and Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Pittsburgh offense does not look very good. A lot of injuries on both sides of the game. Typically AFC South. Are they AFC South? No.
They're
AFC North games are always ugly, always dirty, and always physical. I still think Baltimore is going to win. I don't know what my score prediction would be, but I'll say 2017, right around that ballpark of it's going to be super ugly. It's in Pittsburgh. Those fans are always rowdy, but I still think Baltimore comes away with a big victory away in a divisional game, which is super important.
Okay. Well, then we're going to move on to, we always do, 3 picks. We've kind of widened that to 5. So we do a marquee game, a manure game, a marquee game that everybody should watch, a manure game that really not worth tuning into, and a my oh my game that might be a surprise. And then we've kind of added to it like this is a lock for a win, and this is an upset game that we're going to try and call. So let's talk through some of those. Let's start with the marquee game. I'm going to let Josh start this because he really had a pick he wanted. So Josh, who's your marquee game?
I had a pick I wanted, and I usually do this, manage the script or whatever, but come Monday or whatever, and all the games are over. So I kind of put my information in. So I picked, for my marquee game, I picked, and I'll just share my screen so I can show these because I made something new for these. I picked Cowboys and 49ers Sunday Night Football. So my second Sunday Night Football game in a row. But I made the other guys, I didn't really make them. I kind of made Matthew, but I asked the other guys to pick a different game so I can make a different graphic. So each week we'll, starting now, coming week 5 to week 17, maybe not the playoffs just because there's a short amount of games. I'll make a graphic for our game based pretty much looking like this, different players, a different coach, and a different background based off the stadium they're playing and the time and whatever. But my marquee game is the Cowboys 49ers. I mean, Sunday Night Football, a great defense, two great defenses actually, going against a superior offense in the 49ers and an offense who may have trouble, but they can do work in the Cowboys. And I expect this game to be really a lot closer than people think it will be, especially with both defenses. I don't know how low scoring it will be. I'd say within lower than 20 overall, 2017, something like that. It could go higher based off if the defenses really do bad against a great offense. But overall, I think this is going to be a closer game than people think, and I think it's going to be in the 49ers' favor.
I agree. I think that 49ers will win that one. I think every one of us would pick that as our marquee game for real. But since Josh is like, Matthew, you got to pick something else. You got to pick something else. I'm like, oh, man. Because when you look at the lineup this week, there's
not.
No other marquee games. Every game you're like, maybe. So I don't know. I picked Jacksonville, Buffalo just to have a different one. I think Buffalo's going to win that one. But Jacksonville, I think last year maybe surprised the Bills. Is that right? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think they beat them one.
The Bills only scored like 3 points or something like that.
Maybe they have a little bit of
Josh Allen sacks Josh Allen game.
Yeah. So maybe something like that happens again. Jacksonville, after kind of a not good game this last week, they bounce back against the Buffalo, who just looked so dominant against Miami. Always throws us all in a tizzy because we're like, wait, if Team A beat Team B, who beat Team C, but then Team C beat Team A, what? We try to do all that stuff. But I guess I'll go with Jacksonville, Buffalo on the I have to go for a different game excuse. How about you, Brandon? What do you got for us that's marquee? That's not either one of those games. If you have to try and pick something out of this mess of a lineup.
Surprisingly, I never told him, pick a game that aren't these games. I just showed him the pictures of the graphics, and I'm guessing he understood. But he chose a different game without me even.
I did pick a different game to just be different, because I was like, well, the Niners game is the obvious one because I really want to see what Purdy can do against a contender team. And I think it's possible we see that game again in the playoffs, which is exciting. Mm-hmm. But I ended up picking the Chiefs versus Vikings, which is, I'll say right now, is going to be my upset of the week. Typically around this time, a team gets on a run in that October stretch, and you're looking back at like, oh, this team has won 8 straight games, shockingly. Vikings have been competitive and probably should have won 2 of their games. Last year they were 11-0 in one possession games or something crazy like that. And even if they regress to an average of 7-4 in those games, I like the Vikings in this game. Actually, I know the Vikings have a lot of problems with their defense. Chiefs defense also hasn't looked really good and have only played against semi-average quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins, if they would win games, would be in MVP conversations because he's putting up tremendous stats. I think the last week against the Panthers was just an outlier. But I think this is a correction game for the Vikings because if they win this week and you look at their schedule, it's like, man, they play the Bears, they play the Raiders, they play the Giants. Their next 7 or so games, outside maybe like one, are super winnable. And it's like, oh, all of a sudden the Vikings, who are 1-3, oh man, Vikings are 5 or 6-3. They're on a run. They're contending for their division. So I picked this game to be a little different. But the Cowboys-Niners game is the game to watch.
Let's go on to the manure game. The game, don't even worry about tuning into this one here. We'll go back to this this graphic here. We got all of our games. Josh, who'd you pick as your manure game? What game is like not even worth turning on?
Manure game. It's also my upset of the week. Bengals at Cardinals. I mean, whether I have the Cardinals upsetting over the Bengals, by the way, but whether Joe Burrow plays or not, I just don't see this game being watchable because he's going to perform poorly. The Cardinals defense has overexceeded expectations. Bengals offense is underexceeded, I guess, if that makes a word, if that's a word, expectations. And when you put those two together, it's like you just have a stalemate of a match, and you look at probably a low scoring like 13-10 win or for the Cardinals or something like that. But I just don't even watch this game because you're not going to get the Bengals offense, and that's pretty much if you're watching for the Bengals offense, you're not going to get it basically.
Okay, so I looked at this lineup and I'm like, man, what's the most manure game? And I started and I'm like, okay, maybe Jets, Broncos, they're both not doing well, but the Jets have shown more life, and I really think that that's, they're. And then I looked at the Bengals, Cardinals, and I'm like, that one, and I'm like, yes, that's my manure game and my upset game. But then Josh just said both of those, and he's been trying to make me pick different things. So now I'm in a conundrum.
Only for the content. You can, if I'm not making a graphic, you can pick the same. I could care less.
Yeah, because if I look through the rest of these games,
they're all bad.
I mean, Chicago, Washington's not looking terribly exciting, but I do anticipate Washington to beat them. I do. Carolina, Detroit, except I love Detroit. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm gonna do the same thing. Bengals, Cardinals. That's gonna be like the game I don't care about, and I think I don't even know if you can call it an upset if Arizona wins. Can you really call it like an upset at this point in the season?
I'm just basing it off an upset over base of our predictions from
preseason
July,
expectations.
Yeah.
All right, what about you, Brandon?
Yeah, I'd agree. There's not like a outlier of like last week Broncos and Bears, like that is a stinker.
Horrible match.
Actually turned out to be all right, but it was
which turned out to be all right, surprisingly.
Well, it was an all right game because they're both so horrible.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but I'll be a little different, and I'm going to throw in your team, Josh, and say the manure is the Bears Commanders for the reason of the Bears are awful to watch. Thursday night game, short weeks. Thursdays have in the past been underperforming games. People are going. I know it's the only game on a Thursday, so people are going to watch it. Exactly. But if this was on like a Sunday slate game, nobody would watch this game. And so that's my reasoning. I still think
the fact that this is on Prime, it's still going to have less viewership. Yeah.
Right. So that's my only reasoning. I think the Commanders should win, but like we've said, Ron Rivera, notorious for losing games he should win. Bears classic. Hey, Bears hype train wins on a Thursday night against Commanders against a rookie quarterback. And then there's questions about Sam Howell, but
okay.
That's my manure game, unfortunately, for you.
That's
all right. So that's manure games. Let's look at the My Oh My, the game that might be a surprise to all of you all. And I'm going to let Josh start, even though he's probably going to pick my game, but I'm going to let him go first again.
I have the Titans at Colts as My Oh My game.
Yes, you did not pick my game.
Okay. I just feel like this is going to be a very heavy run game. If you like the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s feel of games, run, ground and pound, this is your game.
But what's not going to be 50s, 60s, 70s is the quarterback is going to be pounding some of those grounds.
Exactly. Jonathan Taylor's back. You still have Derrick Henry on the other side, and Anthony Richardson is as mobile as they get at quarterback. So I honestly, I'm looking at 150 or more rushing yards for the Colts alone between those two guys. And I'd say borderline 100 yards for Derrick Henry. Maybe 75 to 100 or more for Derrick Henry. This is a run heavy game. And, you have questions at quarterback with Ryan Tannehill. Can he pass? Can he be a non-liability at quarterback for passing? Anthony Richardson, he's a great passer, but does the team trust him? Does the team and the coaching staff trust him enough to make those risky, triple coverage, thread the needle type of throws yet? Or is he going to take it underneath? I think this is one of those games where it's a prove it to me type of deal for Anthony Richardson, where he may make some of those throws, but a lot of them will be, over the middle, underneath the Josh Downs or Michael Pittman or whatever. But this is a game that I feel like people will be surprised at how interesting this game will be.
And let's not count out the fact that Zach Moss is still in there. And he's been doing well. I'm going to go with a different my game, and that game is Philly at LA. Depending on if Matthew Stafford is still dealing with that hip, but if they get that all kind of under control and he's back, the fact that they get Cooper Kupp back maybe, and they still have this guy that I keep calling Pikachu, Puku, whatever. I got to get his name
Pakua.
down.
Pakua. Pacua.
Pakua. Okay, Pakua. I'm going to get that in my mind. The fact that they have him, this could end up being a little closer game than people might expect. I think Philadelphia, LA could end up being a my, oh my. Would you look at how that game turned out? Could end up being an upset with LA beating Philadelphia, but I already chose my upset. So we're just going to leave it at my, oh my. Brandon?
Well, that is a good one. I was going to pick that one, but to be different, the my oh my, I'm going to go with the Texans-Falcons game. I'm really interested to see if the rookie quarterback for the Texans can continue just being smarter and being smart with the ball and not turning it over. That's how you lose games. You beat yourself versus getting beat by the other team. Falcons are typically tough outs because they're a hard-nosed run the ball. But I like the Texans. See what Stroud can do and their coach, and I think you'll be surprised. Like, this Texas rookie quarterback, potentially rookie quarterback of the year. So it'd be worth watching for that aspect. In that Colts game, potential for the first game to be over in that 12 o'clock because it's going to be a lot of running. You'll be surprised. The Colts game's already over with like every other game just starting the fourth quarter.
Oh my. Unless everybody's expecting such a run game that Anthony just throws it all game. Could be.
I wouldn't want that for the Colts.
Hey, let's talk about our we already kind of talked about our upsets, right? Did you have an upset that you threw in there, Brandon?
I like the Vikings over the Chiefs. As the Vikings get right game of, hey, we're going to, this is their win. They've got pretty easy schedule coming up. We'll be shocked. Oh, wow. Vikings went on a 9-game win streak.
Mm-hmm. All right. So what's your lock of the week? We'll start with Brandon on this one. Go backwards. Brandon, what's your lock? Lock win of the week.
Lock of the week. Oh boy. Let's go back up real quick. Oh man, there's not a. I feel like the obvious one is Detroit over Carolina. Yeah. That'll be my lock. The Lions are playing really good. Carolina struggles to move the ball, struggles to score points. Frank Reich as the head coach. Yeah, I will always bet against that. Dan Campbell, Goff, St. Brown, they're all looking really good. And I know for the Lions, a lot of Lions fans, I forget the two running backs. It's Montgomery and what is their backup? Gibbs, the point of, why is he not getting the ball more versus Montgomery when Gibbs averages like 5.5 a carry and Montgomery's like 3.3. It's a noticeable difference in, hey, when Gibbs runs the ball, he runs harder, just runs through the tackles. But I think the lock is the Lions beating Carolina. I would be shocked that Frank Reich beats the Lions.
I think Josh would like Gibbs to get more, as Gibbs is on his fantasy team.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. So he agrees with me then for sure.
I do agree. But my lock for the week is Dolphins over Giants. Sorry. You just
good one.
Can't. What'd you say?
That's a good pick. That's
okay.
Safe.
Yeah, that is definitely safe. I just don't imagine any possible way where the Giants win. And I actually think we might have predicted them to win when our predictions came out. But Giants got sacked 12 times last week. They got terrible offensive line. and the Dolphins have a great defense, great defensive coordinator, a top two offense in the league. I just don't see this game not being a blowout. Simple as that.
How many points does the Dolphins score? Over 50 points? 60 points?
Just barely under. I'd say 42.
I'm going to go crazy, and I'm going to say I agree with both of those as my lock of the week, because those are the two games I was debating between Miami and Detroit. Against those opponents, Detroit against Carolina, Miami against New York. They're both like I cannot see either one of those teams losing. I could be surprised, but if I'm saying lock of the week, I'm going to say both of those. So there you heard it, guys. If you're out there and you're looking for a couple locks of the week, those are the two we heartily agree on. So, well, what else did we have here? That's our big thing. I think that's going to be it for us today as we finish off this week. We loved having Brandon Harris with us, and join us next week because we've got more football coming. This season is not even a quarter of the way through yet. We'll see you guys then on the Football Fandemic.
Go Patriots.